Can you tell us how you first got your big break in the music industry?
Yeah, it goes back to I used to play with Randy Rhoads and the Quiet Riot in the '70s, and then when Randy joined Ozzy, they recorded a couple of records with the original rhythm section, Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. By the time that they were ready to start touring in the United States, they replaced the rhythm section. They already had Tommy Aldridge, who joined the band, and they were about 10 days away from actually starting the tour. So the trust factor had to be very huge because they didn't want somebody who was going to be detrimental, to the situation as far as being a bad influence on Ozzy, basically. And Randy said, well, Rudy's not an alcoholic. He's not a drug addict. He's reliable and he can play this. So that's how I actually got the gig, by Randy Rhoads' recommendation. He trusted me that I was good. He trusted me with the trust factor that he had built with Ozzy and Sharon, because it still is. It's a very tight circle to get in, with them. And I went from sleeping on a floor the day of the audition. I was sleeping in Kevin DuBro's Valley apartment on the spare room on a floor, to actually living with them, with Ozzy and Sharon. I moved in. They just showed me a bungalow that they had in Sharon's family's estate, and say, okay, you can live there. And it was unbelievable. Just going from like zero to being part of that very tight, wonderful family. Yeah.
What advice would you give to younger musicians now who have that moment where everything changes overnight? Their whole life changes when they get that big break. What advice would you give to them?
Well, in my case, it was all about always remembering where everything comes from. To me, it was a blessing. It was really funny because we were going on tour, on stage, and Ozzy's image was built up around this character, like an evil character or satanic or whatever, And the fact is, they were the nicest people I've ever known in my whole life, And so to me, I found it to be more of a religious. By religious is right before I had joined the band, at my lowest, I made peace with God. That if I didn't make it, that was fine. But as long as my fingers kept moving, I was going to keep playing. So a few days later, I got a call, to audition. So I always connected that moment of making peace with the reason why I was on AfterBuzz on that tour with Ozzy, and of course Randy Rhoads and Tommy and Sharon and so on. So for me, I was always grateful for the opportunity, but also realized that I was part of somebody else's journey. I was going along with it and hoping that someday, somehow, I didn't know how, but I will also embark in my own journey, build my own band. But I gotta tell you, the only reason why I left Ozzy was because Randy Rhoads passed away tragically during the tour, and we all lost the joy of play. We just kept touring to keep Ozzy occupied, keep him from going home and drinking himself to death, literally. And it was every single night. It was like we were accomplishing the impossible, which is how to go up there and entertain people. Because, like Liberty said, the audience they're not supposed to know how difficult it is to do what we do. Even though it's so much joy to make music, it's the behind the scenes things, such as continuing tour without Randy Rhoads. It was virtually impossible, but we did it every single night. So after I completed my commitments with Ozzy, for that tour, I went on from like the biggest band in the world to the absolute unknown zero with Quiet Riot. I mean, nobody wanted the band. We had Metal Health finished already, mastered, getting ready to be released, and we couldn't even find a manager to handle the band. So to me the most important thing at the time was to find joy in making music again, and to me that was priceless.